It is synonymous with the words electric and car. It is none other than the Nissan Leaf. Now I know what you're thinking, Gav, this car has already been reviewed to death years ago. Why are you reviewing this now? Well, that was before the price of gas went nuts and demand for electric cars exploded. So I'm going to take a completely new, fresh perspective, a new look at this car as so many New Zealand motorists are. That being said, price and range, this is the big battery version, the 62 kilowatt hour version. And at the time of recording, the price was just north of 61 grand after the clean car rebate, but as is happening with just about everything these days, the price is going up. So the actual price now, at the time of putting this video out, is whatever's in the box. The range hasn't changed though. This one will get you 385 Ks per charge, which is very usable. In fact, on paper, bang for buck, this car, it looks all right. And it feels all right too, with the leather seats being comfortable and the interior quite spacious. It has all the mod cons you'd expect from a new car like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, as well as voice recognition, climate control, sat-nav, a 7-speaker Bose sound system with a compact subwoofer in the boot, and front and rear heated seats. And speaking of seats, the battery underneath the car means the seat height is higher than a regular sedan, making it easier to get into than community college with heaps of leg and headroom. In the back, however, the seats are even higher, meaning that if you're over 6 feet tall, you'd better sit in the boot instead, which is fortunate because at 405 litres there's plenty of room for a human. And on the subject of storage, while the Leaf has a PSC of 40, it doesn't have a fartment or front compartment like many new electric cars, just a motor and inverter taking up the space. But despite this, it still has a proper spare tyre under the rear, instead of just a can of goo and a pump like so many new cars these days. All in all, it feels like a reasonable, decent family car, but what's it like to drive? Now, I'm no Leafologist, but I do know that Nissan has produced more than 500 million Nissan Leafs. In fact, more than 50% of all the electric cars on New Zealand's roads are Nissan Leafs. Many of them use Japanese imports, so Nissan must be doing something right. Speaking of which, if you are interested in finding a used Nissan Leaf, about 3 years ago I made a video guide on what to look for in terms of car design flaws and how to check the battery to make sure the Leaf you're buying is a good one. That video is older now, but it's still perfectly relevant and applicable if you're in the market for a used Nissan Leaf. Now, it should be said that this is not a truly exciting vehicle, but what it does well. It's practical and functional. Now, this is the Leaf E Plus model, which means it has the 62 kilowatt hour battery pack and a 160 kilowatt motor. Now, there is a cheaper 40 kilowatt hour version, like I mentioned, and that will set you back around $55,000 and will give you around 235 Ks per charge of range. Now, I'd love to be more specific with the pricing, but as always happens, this very week while I'm recording this, the Nissan guy told me that the prices are increasing like just about every other automaker. So I can't give you an accurate price at the moment that this camera is recording right now, but I'm going to put it on the screen what the official new price is. Welcome to 2022. I should also point out that this model right now is being replaced with the newer Nissan Leaf. Now, the differences are only really cosmetic. In fact, the batteries on the newer model are a little bit smaller. Instead of 62 kilowatt hours, you'll get 59. Instead of 40 kilowatt hours, you'll get 39. But the range stays the same. By tweaking the software and increasing the aerodynamics, with the new model, you will get exactly the same range as this. The only real differences to the new Leaf, other than the battery size changing slightly, is that the new Nissan Leaf, the replacement model for this one, has slightly different rear spoiler design, slightly different wheels, and slightly different cosmetic changes to the front. Just makes it a little more aerodynamic. But basically, nothing else has changed in the car. Some quick stats for you. Both variations of the Nissan Leaf are front-wheel drive. This one, the 62 kilowatt hour version, is 1.7 tons. Now, it makes it about 100 kilos or so heavier than the Tesla Model 3 entry-level version. It's a big car. Don't let the fact it's a hatchback fool you. Although one thing this car does have is safety. It scored 94 out of a possible 100 points for safety and got a 5-star rating on the Euro NCAP safety test. This is a fortress on wheels. But this Japanese fortress also has gadgets, and I like gadgets. Now we're off the motorway, we can talk gadgets, and this car has a fair amount. It has, for example, rain sensing wipers, which are busy today because they can sense it is a beautiful Auckland winter's day. It also has things like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and adaptive cruise control. So you can just set the cruise control and it will maintain the speed of the vehicle in front. You can take your feet off the pedals and relax. It takes the agony out of driving in the city. But my favorite feature, aside from GPS and reversing cameras and all that usual stuff, is it has an auto dimming rear vision mirror. So if you have a Ford Ranger driver behind you, which inexplicably they all have ridiculously bright headlights, then it will just take the agony out of driving with a Ford Ranger behind you. It's brilliant. And Ford Ranger drivers, what's up with that, guys? Sort your lights out. One more gadget it has, though, is something called e-pedal, which, if I turn this on, I've never used this before. Oh, look at that, look at that. Okay, so the e-pedal allows you, we're slowing right down, to use one pedal driving. What that means is that you can take your foot off the accelerator, the car will slow down all the way by itself. Let's speed up as not to annoy the people behind me. And you can drive the car without touching the brake in normal circumstances. That just makes it stress-free. I'm slowing down now without touching the brake. And now I accelerate, and now I slow down. That's so cool. I love one pedal driving. If you've never used it before, at first you're going to think this is horrible, I don't like it. Give it a little bit. Once you get used to it, you'll never go back. Now the car also does have eco mode with e-pedal, which just increases the amount of battery power going back into the battery. See, check this out. I am now pulling up to a light without touching the brake. Oh, am I going to stop in the line? Look at that! I didn't touch the brake. That is wicked. Now, if those aren't enough gadgets for you, there are optional extras you can buy for your new Nissan Leaf, such as you can get illuminated kick plates to brighten up the door sills, or you can get a roof rack installed, that could be handy, or inexplicably, if you want to spend hundreds of dollars, you can get blue wing mirrors. Blue wing mirrors aside, this car runs fine in the city, but some of the things I want to test on this Leaf are best done on the open road. Okay, day 2. It's a new day in the all-electric Nissan Leaf. Let's get the show on the road. Oh, no, handbrake. Got to get used to that. It's got an old-fashioned foot brake. Today I'm going to be taking this on the motorway to not only test out the gadgets like cruise control, which is adaptive, but also to see how it handles and also check the cabin noise at 100 k's an hour on New Zealand's coarse chip roads. Now I have a theory that this car is actually quieter than a lot of cars that cost a lot more money. That's just my theory. We're going to find that out very soon. First, I've got to get out of Auckland. And I'm stuck in Auckland traffic, which is normal for most Aucklanders most of the time, and the air stinks because I'm stuck behind diesels. Let me recirculate. This is a good chance for me to explain. I saw a study that came out last week, which is not good news. It showed that pollution in New Zealand, mostly from combustion cars, causes 2,000 early deaths in New Zealand every year. Not only that, it also causes 2,000 hospitalizations every year caused by cardiac events, and 6,500 respiratory hospitalizations and 13,200 asthma events. Mostly all because of combustion vehicles. Now there'll be some people that the minute I say that, they reject that message. Doesn't make it any less true. And then there's the financial side, $15 billion a year in pollution costs related to health, mostly from combustion vehicles. So I gotta ask if you're still planning on buying a combustion vehicle, given what we know about the fact how expensive they are to run now and how bad they are for climate change and of course for your own health, why would you buy one? Who hurt you? It's madness. It's like those little washers for glasses you can put on your bench top. Why would you do that? You've got a tap right there. It's absolutely pointless. Another cool thing I like about this car is that it has sensors that can read speed signs, and it will display the speed sign on the dashboard. You go past a speed sign, like a 30 zone or a 50 zone, the little symbol on the dashboard changes to 30 or 50. It's pretty cool. All right, now the weather seems to be improving a little bit, thank heavens. I'm now going to turn on the adaptive cruise and see how it handles it. It's set for maximum of 100 k's an hour, and I take my foot off the gas. This is the part where it's like a toilet in a dream. Do I trust it? Yes, yes. It's going, and I can adjust the distance from the vehicle in front by pressing the distance button on the dashboard. I've only got 3 options, but I'm going to have a fairly close distance, so it should increase the speed a little bit. Yes, it is. and it's keeping a safe but fairly close-ish distance, good for traffic in the city, from the truck in front. Now, this doesn't have automatic lane keeping, so if I let go of the steering wheel, it's going to take off into the next lane. I think in a lot of ways this car is like the Hyundai Kona EV. It is a quality vehicle with a usable range. It's not the most expensive, it's not the cheapest, but it doesn't have all the gadgets, and it's a much more conventional vehicle for normal, sensible, conventional people. It's not all touchscreen displays and dripping with gadgets where you need to go back to school to learn how to use it. Actually, this is a little bit too close to that truck. The car's more confident than I am. Let's put it to distance 2. There we go. Slowing down a little bit to let that truck get some distance between us. Now I'm in a tunnel. Now's a good chance for me to do something that you and I were never allowed to do as kids. Turn on the interior lights while driving. Alright, so now that the lights are on, I can plead with you to please smash that like button, as the millennials say, and please share this video, maybe leave a comment, subscribe to the channel as well, because next week's video is going to be pretty interesting. I'm not going to give you any clues, but if you like and subscribe and share, that all helps the channel grow, and I can get the word out there about electric cars, which, as you may know if you drive an EV, they are just better. They're just better, and I'm a petrol head at heart, but I know when something is better. So yeah, please like, share, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Thanks. Now that we're almost out of Auckland, I want to bring your attention to something that is a bit unexpected with this car, and that is the quality of ride. It is gliding like it's on a cloud. It feels fantastic. It's such a smooth ride, and it makes me wonder if it actually might handle like a pig when I throw it into some corners. Maybe it's like the Hyundai Kona. It's got the suspension set up for the Korean market, or the much more smoother roads than New Zealand has. But so far, it feels really good. And another thing I noticed is that the cabin noise at 100 on the motorway was really low. It didn't have that low frequency that a lot of bigger, heavier cars have. It's surprisingly good, but we won't know until we get onto coarse chip roads like this and I can get up to 100. Then we'll measure the cabin noise. Let's cut to that scene. So about 78 decibels at 100 on New Zealand's coarse chip roads, which is not bad considering its price point. The other thing I want to mention though is handling. A moment ago I told you how great the handling was, and in the city it is sublime. You're not going to find a car in this price point with handling that comfortable. In the country, however, the words waterbed come to mind. I would throw it into some corners, but I'm just not confident it would come out of them. It's a comfortable car, first and foremost, comfort first, not handling. But in the interests of science, I chucked it into some corners anyway, which went well. These tires are complaining like a farmer on Facebook. And before I managed to annoy the entire farming community, and I actually love you guys, it was soon time to pull in for a recharge. What a journey that was, and we are arriving to the charger, and I'm really interested to see how fast this car recharges, because it uses an older style recharging plug called CHAdeMO. Now, I used to have a car back in Europe that used CHAdeMO, and in my mind it was slow, but that was a long time ago. Gosh, there is something to be said for having the charging point on the front of the car. It's so convenient. Now, I've spent the last couple of days working hard to get this battery level down, and it's now down to exactly 20%. And I'm going to see how long it takes to get from 20% to 80% full using one of these ChargeNet Hyper Rapid chargers. So this is one of the 2 hyper rapid chargers that are here in Kaiwaka. Now these chargers, ChargeNet's put them in, they can deliver each 300 kilowatts of charging power, and they can charge 3 vehicles at once. Now to use it is pretty straightforward. You can use the app on your phone or swipe the key fob, and it'll ask you what kind of plug do you want. Now I mentioned earlier, this one uses CHAdeMO, an older style plug. So I'll select that. It will flash blue, which is the one you're supposed to take, and obviously there's only one CHAdeMO plug on these. And it goes into the plug on the left. Alright, and now the car does the rest. Back when I had my car in Europe, I had a CHAdeMO plug on it as well, and the most I'd get out of it was typically around 40 kilowatts, which wasn't very fast. I mean, at that point, 5-10 years ago, it was a great speed, but nowadays it's not epic. Now this one, how fast is it charging? Okay, it's charging at 44.2 kilowatts. Now that's not amazing, but I think the reason for that is that I've heated up these batteries quite hot with all the heavy driving I've done, and one criticism I have about the Nissan Leaf is that the batteries are air-cooled, not liquid-cooled like most electric cars today. The downside to that is the batteries can get hot and it means your rapid charging time is slow. If you were to recharge at home using one of these chargers from EV Next, then you're looking at about 7 hours, which is not too bad. That would set you back around about $1 to $3 grand, depending on how easy the install is in your house. And if you were to use the granny charger that came with the car, which I don't recommend because it takes forever, you'll be looking at up to 2 days to charge this car. So yeah, get one of those wall-mounted chargers from EV Next. You won't regret it. As for the battery underneath this car, it has a 160,000 K or 8-year warranty, which is longer than most household appliances these days. So yeah, the battery is going to outlast the car, so don't worry about that. There are, however, 3 things I'd like to talk about when it comes to this car, and they are 3 sensible things. All the cool people are gone now, it's just you and me now. Let's be serious and talk cost. If you're the sort of person to buy a Nissan Leaf, then you're probably a very sensible person. Not the sort of person to run out and buy a 2-seater sports car or a Mercedes or a big V8. You're a sensible, logical person. So let's talk sensibly and logically about costs. First of all, the average Kiwi family spends just over $200 a week on transportation costs. Now, if you're a typical, sensible New Zealander, you may have a later model car as it is, say an Accord or a Camry or some other sensible vehicle. If you were to trade that in on an electric car such as this, a Nissan Leaf, then you would probably find after your trade-in that your weekly repayments will be much less than what the average Kiwi spends on petrol each week. And that is sensible. Point number 2, insurance. If you were to insure this car with a basic insurance plan, a 62 kilowatt hour Leaf, you're looking at about $81 a month. Now, I went and found out what Tesla owners pay for the base entry-level Model 3, and they are paying, the cheapest I found, $96 a month, which makes this 21% cheaper per month for insurance. That's sensible. Point number 3, replacement tires. The cheapest brand name tires I could find for this car were $180 each. To compare, the cheapest brand name tires I could find that fit the entry-level Tesla Model 3 were a little bit more expensive. That makes tires for this car 20% cheaper, and that is sensible. And now I could also go and talk about running costs, internal combustion versus electric, but we already know that electric cars cost just cents per kilometre, while combustion cars cost dollars per kilometre. That's a no-brainer. And that's it. I now have plenty of electricity, more than I need to get home, but I'm going to wait just a little bit longer to see how long it takes to get to 80% from 20%. All right, so that's about 45 minutes from 20% to 80% full. So not bad, not terrible. There's not really much you can do to speed that up other than arriving with a cooler temperature battery. And with my electric whip all charged up, let me do a quick shout out to Ecotricity, which makes these videos possible. Ecotricity is New Zealand's only carbon zero certified electricity provider, so while the other companies might pour all their efforts into advertisements, Ecotricity's putting all their efforts into actually combating climate change, with every electron produced being 100% renewable from solar, wind and hydro sources. So as you can see what's happening around the world with our climate lately, why not get on the right side of history by telling your grandkids you were part of the good fight by joining up and saving a bit of money at ecotricity.co.nz. And while you're there, check out the EV Buyer's Guide, where you'll find the prices and ranges of every electric vehicle on sale in New Zealand today, including this Nissan Leaf, which had turned out to be a surprisingly decent electric car. Sure, it might not be the fastest, sleekest electric machine in the world, but the fact that they're being sold before they even hit the showrooms means Nissan must be doing something right. And that is the gist of the Nissan Leaf. Sure, it may be about as exciting as a rainy weekend in Palmerston North, but not everyone wants or needs a sports car. Some people just want safe, reliable transport to get from point A to point B cheaply. And if that is you, then the Nissan Leaf is worth a look. In one word, it's sensible.